Today we're going to do the rear disc brakes on a 2008 Mercury Mariner, which is the same as a Ford Escape, and this is the hybrid. And some models come with rear drum brakes, some models come with rear disc brakes. You just have to look at yours and see for yourself. Also, some of the bolts, the slider bolts to remove the caliper, are 9mm hex and others are 7mm hex. So just keep in mind you may need both of those Allen wrench size wrenches or fittings for your socket wrench to successfully remove the calipers when you're doing a brake job on the Escape. So we've jacked the car up through the rear differential, so we got both sides up at once. We got chocks in front of the front wheels, and we're just getting ready to slide the jack stands underneath now. Just extra support in case that were to let loose while I'm here working on it. Wouldn't want to get something crushed. That's always a bad day when that happens. And it looks pretty straightforward. I'm going to remove the two bolts that hold the caliper on, swing the caliper off, and install the new brake pads. Each of the caliper slide bolts has a small dust plug, or should have anyway, clipped in, right there. Sometimes they get sticky, and a small straight blade screwdriver will help pop them out. There's what we're talking about. And if you don't have them, it's not critical, but it can get dust and dirt filling up in the hex slot where you have to remove the bolt at, and then you end up having to spend a lot of time cleaning the dirt and gravel and debris and stuff out of the bolt before you can actually loosen it. And I almost forgot to mention that since it's a hybrid, we need to either disable the brake system or disconnect the battery. So I've disconnected the negative terminal on the battery on this because hybrids occasionally cycle the brakes even when they're not running and no one's around them, the key's not in it. They still can randomly activate the braking system and cycle the brakes. So if that happens while you have it apart, you got an instant blown out caliper, and no one wants that extra trouble when they're doing just a simple brake job, do they? So we're going to avoid that by disconnecting the power to the whole car and making sure nothing can happen to the brakes. Once the bolts are removed, we're just going to rock the caliper back and forth, top to bottom, with a long pry tool. One of these, I can't remember which, could be this one where the one side has to swing out before the other side will come. Some of them you got to swing the top part out first, some of them you got to swing the bottom part out first, and still others you got to do them very evenly. And I need to put the phone down and figure out which way this one goes for you. This one just popped right off from the top. Pick it up so we're not hanging too much weight on it, but it's got a lockdown clamp right there on that part of the brake line. So the only part of the brake line that's getting any stress is the bottom part here, but no stress is better than stress, so we're just going to flip it over part way and set it up here. And we can see, I don't like bending the brake line even that much, so I'll tell you the truth. But we need it upright so we can see what's going on. So we don't have much choice unless we take the bracket off. So there you go. The brake pads themselves aren't that bad, but I got it apart, and the outboard one here is looking kind of flimsy. So we're going to go ahead and replace these since it's already apart. The parking brake pads look really good still. Yeah, relatively good. Then the parking brake works fine, so we're not going to mess with that at all. That's just a nightmare when you go into that and mess with that. And you can see that the rotor popped off very easily without any trouble at all. So, alright, we can see the piston is compressed. Now it went in really easy. That one was really smooth. I could have compressed that one with a big pair of channel lock pliers, or maybe in my hand. And that gave me enough room to pop the inner brake pad out from its retaining brackets. So we're going to set that aside now. We're going to put the brake pads down. And the brake pads are just slightly different. If you can look, one has a little bit wider top tang on it, and the other one is a little bit narrower, but has a larger little hook on the end of it, as opposed to this one here that just has a tiny little bend on the end. This here is your inboard one, and the one with the wider tab is your outboard pad. Alright, so we tightened them down, hand tight, just nice solid force. There's no real super high torque you need to put on them. If you were to use the new hardware that came with the brake pads, I don't know if you can see, there's some, there you can see it, there's some red thread sealer anti-lock material built onto them that activates when you screw them in to keep them from coming loose. But you know, I got these at AutoZone and I just wasn't happy with the quality of the metal on the side bolts. It's not like chrome plated at all, it's just plain steel. And the ones that came out of it, which may be original, may not be, were heavy chrome plated, and they had a nice heavy solid feel to them. While these are really lightweight and kind of, they definitely don't feel like they have the quality that the other ones had, so I went with the ones I thought were better. I used my, maybe I should have filmed that, but I used my wire brush on my drill, and I held them with a pair of pliers, and I buffed them all up really nice and clean. Then I applied some brake grease to them to lubricate both themselves and the slide rubber boots that they go through. And one last thing we don't want to forget is to reinstall the dust caps, which I almost forgot. Let's go have a look. There we go. New brake pads all installed. Putting that dust cap in. And putting that dust cap in, I said, and sliding it in. Seem to be having some trouble finding the hole here. Oh, there it is. That top one's a little awkward to get to. The bottom one is easy. There we go. You can see I did not change the rotors. They're supposed to be 11 millimeters minimum thickness, and these were 12.7. So I feel, well, that's not too bad. What I did is I took my grinding wheel. There was a little bit of a ridge on the outside edge. I took my grinding wheel and I just ground off the ridge around the outside edge, and we're going to call it good. I'm not recommending you do it that way. You should probably go out and buy new rotors or have them resurfaced, but that's how this backyard mechanic did them on this car this time. So, alright, this wheel is ready to put back on. Well, at least it will be as soon as I get my new tires mounted. I got brand new tires for it, and I picked them up on clearance at Walmart for $40 a piece. They're not real fancy. They're called Dextero. And they're, what are they, 15 or 10, 35, 20, they're 20 millimeters narrower than the ones that came out from the factory. But they're on sale for 40 bucks a piece. And the ones I had on it were just awful tires right down to the cord on the inside edges. And the back ones were balled all the way across, so it was time for new tires. This car's got 300,000 miles on it, so we're not going to put anything really expensive on it, because who knows, it's going to last another 6 months or another 6 days or another 6 years. It's just hard to say. But we're done here with the brake job. The other side should be... thanks for watching. Have a great day.